Harris currently serves on the U.S. Black Chamber Conference Board of Directors in Washington, D.C., and as the Midwest Director for the U.S. Black Chamber over 12 states. Mr. Harris is an active member, life member, of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Mr. Harris was featured in the Crane Detroit Business Class 2007 40 Under 40. He has both his bachelor's and master's degree in counseling and psychology from Clark University and an educational specialist degree from Wayne State University in educational leadership and policy studies. Mr. Ken Harris is a PhD candidate at the Michigan State University in African American and African Studies and the Eli Broad School of Business Program. Please welcome Mr. Harris.
I'm glad you all made it safely here today, and your travel has brought you to a place where we can look into some exciting news coming forth from our congressional representatives. If you can, just for 1 second, please give the people who put this together, all the volunteers, a round of applause today for making this event happen. Even more exciting when you can bring the Democratic minority whip here, Steny Hoyer, and our Representative Brenda here today. Please give them a round of applause as well. And most importantly, out of all the discussions that are happening here today, it really comes down to one priority and one major initiative, and that's the creation of jobs. That's what it's all about here today. And we have an incredible and distinguished panel. But before we get started, and I actually introduce the panel, I just want you to give just a real warm welcome as I kind of go through the brief bio of our Congressman Hoyer of Maryland, who is one of our leading Democrats and who has helped to strengthen the middle class in our economy and, more importantly, national security. As the House Democratic Whip for the 114th Congress, Congressman Hoyer is the second-ranking member of the House Democrat leadership. He is in charge of mobilizing the party's vote for important legislative issues, as well as acting as a liaison for members of the Democratic Party and planning strategy for the entire caucus. He also plays a key role in shaping the House Democrats' legislative priorities and delivering the Democratic message. The whip from 2003 to 2007 in the 112th and in the 113th Congresses, this has been our leader. Since 2010, he has spearheaded bipartisanship, but most importantly, Make It in America plan. So please give a round of applause for our Democratic Whip, Steny Hoyer from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Ken. Get this up just a little bit here so you can hear me. It reminds me, Paul Sarbanes, some of you remember Paul Sarbanes. Senator Paul Sarbanes was a senator from the state of Maryland. He served for 30 years in the state senate. And he was speaking to a group of about 300 or 400 people one time, and one of the people in the back of the room raised their hand and said, "Senator, I can't hear you." Immediately, somebody in the front row got up and said, "I can, and I'll trade places with you." So I don't know whether you wanted to hear me, but I did put up the mic so you could hear me. I am so pleased to be here with my buddy, Brenda Lawrence. What an extraordinary resource she is for the people of our country. I want to thank all of you very, very much for whatever role you played in sending the mayor to Washington, D.C. to be a member of the Congress of the United States. She is doing an extraordinary job. And lest you be confused at all, she came not with her feet on the ground, but running on the ground. She is, in my view, one of the most popular members of the House of Representatives at whatever level, because she has that personality that simply galvanizes people and makes them want to do what she is doing. So I am so pleased to be here with Brenda Lawrence. I came when she was running for office and she was the mayor. We met in this fancy building where we were just in just now, and it was a good crowd. They were very helpful to her, and I didn't know her. That was the first time I met her. But I will tell you, Councilman Jones, she has done an extraordinary job. Now, Councilman Jones here, been on the council for 10 years, and now she's the head of the council, 9 members of the council. So thank you for being here as well. I just met this lady, and I don't want to offend anybody else because I don't have all the names of people who are here, but I'm looking for her right now. Where'd she go? Oh, okay. I just met this lady. She's the mayor, the commissioner, the representative, the senator. Are you the governor yet? She's got so many jobs, but Martha Scott, Martha, thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much. Let me say, I've been in the Congress. This is my 35th year in the Congress of the United States. This next fellow I'm going to mention thinks I'm a short timer. He has been here for 136 years. Not quite that long, but when I came to the Congress, I got involved with this fellow, and we every year we'd be on the west front of the Capitol, and we would be singing Happy Birthday, Martin. And he led the effort to make Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday a national holiday, a national day of recommitment, a national day of focus on how we could make America better, how we could make our communities better, and how we could reach out and lift people up. John Conyers was and is an extraordinary leader. Dean of the House people sometimes introduce me as the majority leader from 2007 to 2011, and I get up and I say, those were the good old days. And in those good old days, of course, John was chairman of the Judiciary Committee, now the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, and he's in the forefront of leading the fight to redeem and ensure everybody's voting rights in America. And has been a giant in terms of the civil rights movement. Mayor Marion is coming in, and we're glad to have her here with us too. So John Conyers, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, for a lifetime of leadership and service, and for always, as our brother John Lewis would say, keeping your eye on the prize. I am so pleased to be here with all of you. I'm pleased to be with these panelists, Bill Jones, Pamela Moore. Is it Bill or William? William. All right, William. William Jones, Pamela Moore, Jeannine LaPrad. Jeannine? Is it LaPrad? Okay. And Mary Kaye Aukee. Mary Kaye, that's a famous name. Mary Kaye is native in America, I'll tell you that. And Ken Harris, of course, and Rick Blocker. I'm so pleased to be here with all of you. Talk a little bit about Make It in America. This district has pockets of unemployment. This state has been threatened for a long period of time now with higher unemployment than is sustainable in a healthy society. And you are all very concerned about that. And we're here to talk about making America now. Let me tell you how this agenda came about. A minister named Mark Melman, and some of you heard the story, I told it briefly, did a poll of Americans as to what they thought America needed to be doing for the 21st century. And he said that the overwhelming response was, if we were going to be as good a country for our people as we have been in the 20th century, we need to have Made in America labels throughout the world. In other words, we had to make a lot of things here and sell it here and around the world. We talked about Made in America as a label, we talked about it for 20 minutes, and I said, I was majority leader then, there were about 25 members of Congress sitting at my conference table, and I said, what we really ought to name this agenda is Make It in America. Make It in America, because that's what we're doing today and what we want to do tomorrow. Made in America is what we did yesterday. And we made a lot of things in America, and we sold them around the world, and sold a lot of them here. And we created the kinds of jobs that people needed and wanted, and they could support themselves and their families. What we've seen recently, however, is that manufacturing, which, by the way, we haven't done a bad job at over the last few years, expanding manufacturing in some respects, but not expanding at the rate that we need to do to create the kinds of jobs that we need to have, in part because manufacturing has become so much more efficient, in part because it's mechanized, robotics, computers, technology, has displaced a lot of people on the line, if you will. And furthermore, we need to make sure that we train people, I know some of you want to talk about this, train people to have the skills that are necessary in the advanced manufacturing environment in which we live. Now, I have a speech here. Ben will tell the staffers that I didn't read this. Will you please thank you? So let me be brief with this. So, in 2009, we started the Make It in America agenda. You can see, I think, a logo. We have a logo. Oh, we made that logo. And it's a gear. We want to make sure the gear is going well. And Make It in America not only is manufacturing something, making something, but it also means making it in America, succeeding in America, getting opportunity in America, and turning that opportunity into a better life for yourself, your family, and your country. That's what Make It in America means. And it is a unifying agenda. It is an agenda that brings America together from right to left, from Republican and Democrat. It's the kind of agenda that Americans intuitively know is the focus that we need to have. Now, there are two people, Andrew Grove, I think some of you may know that name. He along with a couple of others, founded Intel, which, as you know, has been wildly successful. And he says that America is the center of invention, innovation, and development. But in order for it to remain so, we have to be taking to scale that which is invented, innovated, and developed in our country. Lest the inventors and the innovators don't go overseas to where the product is being made. Andrew Lippers, who is the president and CEO of Dow Chemical, wrote a book. He wrote a book about a year after I established this Make It in America agenda, and he named it Make It in America. And like Andy Grove, he talked about needing to make sure that we take to scale that which we invent. Now, a perfect example, almost every electronics that we have in the world was invented here. But as all of you know, so much of it is now made somewhere else. And that's cost us jobs, but it's also cost us the kind of energy and invention and innovation and development that would be attended to seeing your product taken to scale and making it better. Now, obviously, if you're Apple, we still have a lot of the invention and innovation here, but we all know that we don't have as much of the construction of the device, the putting together of the device, manufacturing the device, as we would like. So the Make It in America agenda has four principles. Number one is we need a plan. We adopted the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. The President signed it a couple of years ago. And in that bill is a bill by Daniel Penske from Illinois, who says every 4 years we got to have a plan. No team, Detroit, the Redskins, how's that for two dynamite teams? Win the game without a plan. And we're not going to win against competition throughout the world that we don't have a plan. Now, when I graduated from high school in 1957, a long time ago, America had no competitors. Nobody graduated my high school class worrying about the Europeans going to take our jobs, or the Asian, China, Taiwan, going to take our jobs. There was none of that discussion. We were it. Nobody in the automobile industry thought anything about Japan taking the automobile market, or the Germans taking the automobile market. We thought we were it, and in fact we were. But as a result of being it, we got negligent. We got lazy. I don't mean physically lazy, just lazy thinking about how we can compete, because we were it. And so the plan of Making America says, what do we need to do to create the kind of environment that will encourage people to make decisions when they're going to make something to make it in America? And then secondly, we want to encourage exports. We want to have tax policies that encourage exports, not imports. Do I mean we shouldn't have imports? Of course not. But it means that we need to have a conscious policy of making sure that people can export and have the means to do so. So we make it here, we sell it here and around the world. Thirdly, we need to make sure that we have a tax, regulatory, and other policies in place so that when somebody's sitting around the table or coming up with a new idea and saying we're going to make it in America, that they will be encouraged to do so by both tax, regulatory, and other legislative money. And lastly, I know we have represented the AFT and the women on whether any Reyes represented here, but there are other teachers. Marion, I know, is a teacher. The fact of the matter is, we need to have, if we're going to make it in America, we need to ensure that we have a 21st century education system that produces 21st century competitors. Because if we don't have that, we're not going to compete. Because the rest of the world, as I said, unlike 1957, they're running hard, they're competing hard. Their team is now in the A League. And so we need to compete. And I'm so pleased to be here with Brenda this morning. As you will see, there's a bill on your chairs that Brenda has put in. And she is a real advocate of our Make It in America agenda. And Brenda, I thank you so very, very much for all you are doing, all you've done as mayor. I told the crowd that I'll end with this. I've been a legislator for some 47 years. I'm in my 35th year, which, in another 50 years I'll catch up with Conyers. But if you're a legislator, you've seen this in Washington, and you got half a brain, you can avoid 100% responsibility. Somebody else did it, the president did it, the Republicans did it, the Democrats did it. But if you're a mayor, the buck stops there. You have to take responsibility. And Brenda Lawrence has brought to the Congress of the United States a focus on getting things done. Very frankly, I think Mr. Sanders is doing very well. Mr. Trump is doing very well. People see them as people who want to get things done. And they're angry, and they're anxious, and they're disaffected. Brenda Lawrence is exactly what the American people want. A doer, action-oriented, get things done for the people of this country and the Congress of the United States. Brenda, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for sitting here in Congress. Appreciate it.
Now you can get excited when you guys will arrive from afterwards, and you can hear that we're trying to create more work for people. And so that's what's most important. But let me do a few house cleaning for a second, because I'm in the corporate world now, and I have to get back acclimated to making sure that we recognize other people who serve the people. And so we also have here Mayor Manny McClellan, who's here today. Could you please stand? We want to vote part. We want to recognize him. Thank you so much. That's right. You heard it directly from our representative. Thank you so much. Most importantly, all of you all know Commissioner Janet Jackson. Are you in the crowd here today? We've been fighting some big fights and pushing really, really hard here in the city of Detroit. I just saw our council president in the city of Detroit. Can you all welcome Councilwoman Brenda? I know it's incredible. I just don't want to miss anyone. If there are any elected officials, can you please stand as we want to make sure that we recognize you as well. Sylvia George, also is council president for the city of Southfield as well. We also have another representative here. And please welcome Judge for the 46th District Court. Thank you so much. And also we have our leaders here in the 14th District, Rick Blocker. I know I saw you somewhere. There he is. Please recognize Mr. Rick Blocker. I feel pretty good to be out of the game quite a while. So, as you all know, I can call the mayor, I can call her one of our chief school board members, I can call her now Congresswoman. And we go way back. She was one individual who not only saw promise in young leadership, but a young man coming fresh out of college, she said there's an opportunity for you. And I had a chance to work with her as her first executive assistant and chief of staff at the age of 25 for this phenomenal system. And when I tell you, when you have a person that you know is sincere, that you know is genuine, and that you know connects with people, you couldn't have a better representative in our now Congresswoman Brenda. And when I say that, I say it sincerely. People always question, I say, what's the relationship between all of these 14 communities that she now represents? Well, she knows the people. And so, when I looked at the Congresswoman and she decided to run, I said, there's no question, she's going to win. Because we've been with a winner for a very long time now. Not only did they say in the city of Southfield she would not achieve success with the school board, she got elected. Not only did they say that you cannot become the first African-American mayor of the city of Southfield, we proved that wrong, and she got elected. Not only did they not say that we need someone to represent all of us, someone born and raised in the city of Detroit, but worked all throughout Oakland County and Wayne County and the other districts. You could not have a better representative here today. And so I'm speaking from the heart. I know there's a bias here, but please give a warm welcome for someone who is not only a family woman, someone who cares about you as the people, and more importantly, who is carrying not only a sincere and genuine voice for the people. We are going to continue to support her because right now the focus is jobs, but that's just the beginning. Please give a warm welcome and standing round of applause for our 14th Congressional District leader, Congresswoman Brenda L. Moore. Thank you.
Please be seated. There's a reason why we're here today. I'm so grateful for the accolades. I'm so proud to have the support of the Dean of Congress and our whip being here today. But they're here because there is a greater issue, and that's the employment of our citizens in these United States of America. Now, the whip hit on an issue that's very important, that's being competitive. I just want to paint this picture. Those of you who remember back when, you could graduate from high school in Detroit and walk right across the street and go to a factory, instantly become a middle-class person with benefits, good salary, retirement, to buy a house and send your children to college. Well, those days no longer exist. That laborer who used to stand there and put a screw in a door on the assembly line has been replaced by a robot. So we no longer need a laborer, but we need a computer programmer and an electronic technician to take care of the robot. For us to be competitive and to have manufacturing make it in America, we must have a trained workforce. Every industry has had to retool and insert technology to be competitive. But every industry that I have met with, they're raising the flag and saying we are approaching a critical level of lack of workforce in the skilled trades. Today I have a lot of representatives here, the plumbers are here, and others, and we talk about what are we going to do? Boeing tells me I can fill 300 jobs today if I can just find the skilled trade workers. Mercedes-Benz, MGM. I love the story where the CEO of MGM came to my office and he said, I was telling him about my focus on skilled trade. He said, something, Congresswoman? A lot of people come to casinos and all they think about are the dealers. He said, but that machine, when you pull the lever and push the button, the slot machine, I have to have an electronic technician to calibrate, an electrician to keep those machines going. He said, just think about our facilities. I need plumbers. I need electricians. I need all of these people in order to run a casino. He said, now let me take you to another challenge. I'm building casinos in Baltimore, in Maryland, and I'm building them in Atlanta. I can't find enough people in the construction industry. I was told just recently by a developer that's putting up a complex on 12 miles south of the road that if anyone is a masonry, and I'm telling you, if you know someone, he said, they walk on this site, I will hire them today. He said, I have 4 elevators going up in my development, and I'm already 2 months behind because I only can find 2 skilled trades that are qualified to put in the elevators in my complex. Now you multiply this. One of the presidents of Mercedes-Benz, who's in the district, and I was meeting with him, and he said, I want you to know something, Congresswoman. Mercedes-Benz is an international company, but in these United States, for us to expand our manufacturing in the United States, and we're constantly intrigued and want to do that, but how can I do that if there's not a trained workforce? Now I want to explain another scenario. How many of you remember being in school and there was a shop for vocational ed right in K-12? Now you remember that person who was in a geometry class and just couldn't get it. Teachers right on the board and just couldn't get it. But you put them in the shop where they had to cut angles and figure out the weight bearing for different construction projects that they had. They were doing geometry, but when they had an opportunity to connect their hands with their brain, they learned. Now, I don't know about you, if you live in a mansion on a hill or you're barely making minimum wage, when your toilet stops working, you have to call a plumber. And that plumber is not going to give you a discount. And plumbers, if so many people will say, I want you to look at the salary of plumbers. And look at the entrepreneur opportunity for me to start my own business, get a van and put a sign on it and start driving around and say, I'm starting my business and then grow it and hire other people to be on my team. We in America, if I ask the majority of you in this room, what are your children going to do? You say, my children are going to college. And if I ask someone and their parent, how's your children doing? I don't know what happened. I failed. Going to school to be a mechanic. Oh my goodness, it's so embarrassing. We're a skilled trade as a mechanic, which now is pretty much a computer programmer based on the technology in our electronic technicians, based on the makeup of engines and all that stuff that's under the hood that I don't want to think about. But think about that person. This is the last thing I'm saying. I'm going to turn over to the panel. In Germany, when a child reaches the 12th grade, they have two options. They can go to a 4-year university or they can go to a vocational technical school. And in Germany, a parent pulls their shoulders back and they're proud. It's either one they choose because they know their child is going to be prepared to have a quality of life. And it's considered honorable to have a skilled trade. We in America, we are reaching a point where we have totally disregarded. We've ripped it out of our schools. There's not an option in K-12 where we can actually introduce that child that's not going to learn geometry in the classroom, but you put them in the shop of vocational education, and they can master it. We need to understand and respect skilled training. And this is the last platform I'm going to get on today. In America, we have adopted the philosophy that our children will go to college, graduate poor and broke, get a job because they're educated, and their debt is higher than the salary that they can get. And we seem to say that's just wrong. What happened to working your way through school? What happened to going to a 2-year university, getting a skilled trade, and then being able to work your way to finish your college education? My grandmother couldn't pay for me to go to school. I got a scholarship to UT. However, I worked my way through school. And I want my children and your children to be saddled with this amazing debt when we can meet our needs for skilled training and continue to educate our children. I just want to plant that seed. But I want to thank you all for being here today. We have assembled the stakeholders in this debate and this issue because we are in the beginning with the vision of our WIP and with the caucus that I started in Congress, the Skilled Trade Workforce Caucus that is bipartisan. One of the things that our WIP didn't share with you is that every time he says, make it in America, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you kind of nod your head. It's what's good for this country. And when I started talking to my colleagues across the aisle and said, and today I got notice that we have 2 more Republicans who have signed on to say we're going to join our voices together and raise this issue in America and fund resources and really talk to our schools and educational systems and partner with industry who's crying for skilled trade. And we're going to work together. Think of it. Something in Congress that we can work together on is something that will transform Detroit. And think about what will happen. And that's the bill that you have on your seat. I said, Mr. Corporation, you have this amazing worker who is a laborer. You retooled your factory. That person is no longer qualified for these technical skilled trade jobs. But Mr. Corporation, if you will take that employee and train them in a skilled trade, we will give you tax credits up to 20%. So you already got skin in the game. You already have a good employee investment and help us build our skilled trade workforce. So thank you, and I want you to know that I'm working on that business. I want to introduce this amazing group that's here today. And each of them will give like 2-3 minutes to introduce what they do and how they're going to have an impact. And I do hope that you can hold us to that so that we can hear everyone. I want to introduce Mr. William Jones, who's the CEO of Oakland Hope, and then there's the Chief Operating Officer of Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation, Jose Reyes. And then we have Ms. LaPrad, who is the President and CEO of the Corporation for a Skilled Workforce. We have Kaye, Aukee, who is the Career Focused Education Director of Oakland Schools. You've heard from Kenneth Harris, someone I'm very proud of. You know, I have a bunch of these young people running around saying that I'm their mom, but I only have 2 children, but I can tell you how proud I am of him. He's done me well. Then we have Brenda, who wears 2 hats. He's the chair of the 14th Congressional District, and he's also the president of Metro AFL-CIO. So we're going to start with Mr. Jones. I do want to say that Mr. Hoyer may have to leave in his presentation. It's not that he doesn't love us anymore, but for us to get him here and be part of this is just an amazing thing. So if he does have to leave, I ask that we excuse him in the process. So Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Lawrence. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. You did say 2 to 3 minutes. As a recovering automobile executive, 2 to 3 minutes is not impossible, but I will do my best. And it doesn't hurt that when you're looking out at the audience and somebody says 2 to 3 minutes and your own staff is, you know they're onto something. You better keep your remarks short. So what we help has been in this community for some 47 years doing extremely good work, not only the food program, the neighborhood investments that we're making, but also our workforce development program, which have taken some 12,000 plus people through a process to give them the opportunity to participate more fully in this formal economy that we have here in Southeastern Michigan. We're still invested in that in a big, big way. We work with DEFC, Detroit Employment Solutions Corp, and NEDC on programs that are going to take people and transform them. Because we don't believe in the transactional relationship of come in, you do something, I do something for you. But the transformational relationship, we can not only change what's going on in your life, but transform you and put you on a path to a future that you might not imagine for yourself at that point in time. We work more on the supply side, and a lot of folks talk about the demand side. We understand the demand side of manufacturing. We understand the demand side of the IT industries, etc. But we also know that here in the city of Detroit, the surrounding communities that make up Southeast Michigan, that there is a tremendous amount of talent that goes unappreciated, undereducated, and underrepresented in a lot of these discussions. So our advocacy is focused on those types of issues, making sure that those people, the guys that you pass by on the street corner, who might not otherwise have an opportunity, can come to a place like a Focus or a Sir Metro and get the training that they need in order to be successful. And we don't stop there. We've got pipelines, and it takes a pipeline approach. Such as somebody can walk into Focus go through our remedial academic programs, train as a machinist, go through a pre-engineering program, earn an associate's degree in Lawrence Tech, and then go on and earn a degree in nuclear engineering at the University of Michigan. Those are the paths that we know are entirely possible. So when we talk here about making it in America, we also want to make it in Detroit, but make it in America too. So I want to close by pointing out just one other thing. Congressman Hoyer mentioned the WIOA Act, and we love the fact that WIOA has a longer time frame. But that time frame isn't long enough. 1-year programs, 2-year programs are not going to do the job. We've got to think about building a pipeline, an entire pipeline, attachment to the supply of talent, just like an entrepreneur would, just like an innovator would, that looks at that raw talent and says, how do I take that raw talent and turn it into something that's worth more than I can imagine? The people who are willing to pay me And that's what Focus Hope is also all about. So thank you very much for your attention.
So anyway, let me just start with a statement that kind of sets the stage for us. Again, I'm Reyes, I'm the Chief Operating Officer. Kevin Moore, our CEO, could not make it tonight, so I'm pitch hitting. But one of the things in terms of just setting the mindset, what makes a city great is not found in the number of skyscrapers it erects, nor the revenue it amasses, but the quality of life that it affords its citizens. To that end, career and wages are a factor that influences individuals and families and communities' quality of life. For that, DESC is the public workforce system for the city of Detroit. Our chief charge is really to cultivate the talent pool to the needs of the business community and bring those into alignment. So for us, you heard Mr. Jones talk about that demand-driven system. That's what we look at. We look at where the opportunities are going to be both on the short term and on the long term. So in terms of tactics, we're dealing with the adult population. You guys are right now sitting about 100 feet away from one of our one stops, which is in this building. Now, also with that, we also talk about cultivating that talent for a longer haul, which is our youth program. We have a litany of youth programs which are in schools right now, as well as out-of-school models like the Jobs for American Graduates, which is a alternative education environment designed to give our youth the opportunity to align to where the job market is going to be when they come out. The key is, and I heard it talked about, the single bullet strategy we had almost 100 years ago, which is I could come right out of high school or not even finish high school and go right into a plant and become a production worker. I'm a living testament to that. I have a grandfather that passed away last year at the ripe old age of 97 years old. He came from Puerto Rico when he was 20. He had been here 77 years and still did not speak a word of English to the day he passed away. But over his house, on the mantle, was a placard for 32 years of loyal service to Ford and overtime. You ask, how could that be? I did. I still do. But guess what? The issue was this, is that Ford did not require you to speak English to be on the production line. They asked you to recognize colors and shapes, which you could do. If we sent our youth to the Ford Motor Company or any company today, and that's all they could do, they would be shown the doors to America. We have to prepare a new generation of workers that are here for the new economy, that are prepared not only to learn the job for today, but to become lifelong learners for tomorrow. Because technology is infused in everything we do. And that technology allows us to do things better, faster, and like I said, with better quality. But the issue is that we now have to be resolved to making sure that we're lifelong learners, because that technology is going to move that job market. So they need to be fluid and agile. So with that, I want to say, as we see this city, the city of Detroit, go through its rebirth. We see the downtown and the new center being revitalized. We see the lights on in the neighborhoods. But recognize this, more so than anything, building Detroit is not about building buildings. It's about building Detroiters. Thank you.
Ensuring that there are good and quality jobs available so that we're creating more equity as far as who's engaging in the workforce and who's part of rebuilding our communities in the great state of Michigan. Our work in Michigan is also grounded in what we're learning and doing nationally. We have a number of colleagues that we work with around the country, so we're continuously learning about what's happening in other places, in other states, and trying to bring a lot of those good and promising practices here to the state and to our work with local communities. And I just want to acknowledge that there are a number of people in the audience and two colleagues here on the stage who I think represent the best of the best as far as knowing what it's going to take to build the kinds of programs and have the kinds of strategies in place that was spoken to earlier. So I think we've got a lot to build on. One of the things that our organization is really trying to focus on is if we've got all these great programs and we've got some really good strategies in place, what's missing? Why do we still have these gaps? Why do we still have gaps in skills? Why do we still have gaps in the jobs that are available and who's actually getting access to those jobs? Why do we have gaps in the number of programs that are available? Why do we have gaps from a policy perspective, from a leadership perspective, and from a funding perspective? So we have been doing work more recently here in Detroit and southeastern Michigan, thanks to investment by a number of organizations. The Detroit Regional Workforce Fund has been one that's really supported our efforts to build an alliance called the Detroit Jobs Alliance. We've also been working more recently with the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation and the Mayor's Office in the city of Detroit to really look at some of these gaps and determine what exactly is it going to take to move the needle so that Detroit residents are really prepared and part of the emerging and growing economy here in the city. And then that they can also have access to the job opportunities that are emerging regionally, which we know requires greater access to transportation, other work, and learning support. And so it really does take a systemic approach to forming these partnerships and making sure that these gaps are closed. And it's going to take a lot of people from community members and residents really standing up and making their voices heard about what it is we need and want at a neighborhood and community level. It's going to take us all working at a city and a regional level to really know what these gaps are and work to be closing them together. And then, of course, leadership at the state level and federally. And so I think we've got a great platform to work with and from. And I look forward to finding ways where we can scale up some of these amazing things like Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation, Fair Metro, and others are already doing in the city of Detroit. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Jeannine LaPrad with the Corporation for a Skilled Workforce.
Hello, Kaye Aukee. I'm the Executive Director of Career-Focused Education at Oakland Schools. That's the ISD in Oakland County. Everyone on this panel and everyone in the audience is a partner of mine. And what I mean by that is that I work to make sure that K-12 education is a part of this initiative. When I came back to Washington, D.C. at the Congresswomen's Caucus, Make It in America became my slogan. I tell my staff we have to have a World War II mentality about this. It's like we can do it, we have to make it in America. My end of the spectrum is we have a problem that students leaving high school don't know what their career will be. They can graduate from university with a degree and don't know what their career is going to be. We have to do better than that. So in K-12 education, we have to talk about career development. Why am I going to school? What do academics mean to me? Where will I apply them? What can I do with this knowledge? What are the careers of the future? Where will I be able to go to work? And what post-secondary learning do I need in order to achieve that goal? We opened up 4 career and technical centers. We took those and we worked with aerospace and Davis, and we had 5. You tell me where they are today. Every single high school student in the city of Detroit should have career and technical education. Every single student in the United States should. And when I talk about that, I say, what's the cost benefit of that? Number 1, you leave us with a high school diploma. Number 2, you leave us with a national industry skills certification, meaning that if you need to go right to work to help your family, to be able to work through college, you can. You can go into an apprenticeship, and we hope apprenticeships come back strong because we want those students to go into that. You can go into the armed services. You can also go to community college or to university. Every single one of those pathways matter. And we as adults and parents have to be able to talk to our students and guide them into those pathways. Please support career and technical education.
How you all doing? Again, I'm Ken Ayers, President and CEO of the Michigan Black Chamber of Commerce, which is access to 79,000 African-American entrepreneurs in the state of Michigan and more than 32,000 here in the city of Detroit, which is ranked number 4 in the entire country behind New York, LA, and Chicago. The reason why I'm prominent in saying that is because I'm going to change the discussion a little bit. You know, I just had a meeting with McDonald's CEO, and he came to the city of Detroit. And you know that big commercial about Calvin, I got a job? You know, I said, you know, I understand that Calvin's got a job, but I think the new job market is, Calvin, let's create a job. And so entrepreneurs are existing here in our communities every single day. And especially in the city of Detroit, where out of those 32,000 African-American firms, 90% of them are between 1 and 4 employees. Imagine if we were able to help those 32,000 African-American entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur who has a business idea, a dream, hire 1, 2, or 3 more people. We have just quadrupled our economy here in the city of Detroit. So let's think about the future. Let's think about a new opportunity that we have. There is an underserved, misplaced, and sometimes neglected workforce. How do we streamline and put together policies that will not only affect these entrepreneurs going forward, but give them the necessary tools and resources that's necessary for us to build a robust economy, a long-lasting economy, an economy that can create generational wealth. So I'm proud to say that I'm here today because I am working with the Congresswoman, because she sees that entrepreneurship is the key, not only to an economic future here in the city of Detroit and in the 14th District, but also for our congressional figure, Mr. Hoyer, to recognize that the dollars that are reaching the state may not reach our entrepreneurs. And how do we effectively get resources to those who need it most? Because right now, there are an underserved community that is looking to work, looking to create jobs, and more importantly, hire folks in their community. And so if we can solve this urban economic agenda, this is the first and key way that we can do it. So I look forward to working with you, Congresswoman, and let's support our entrepreneurs, because you can have not just a career, you can also be entrepreneurship-minded. Thank you.
Proud president of Metro Detroit AFL-CIO. We have 140,000 members, 40 unions belong to our association. I'd just like to say, when you say jobs, remember you have a partner, because jobs is what's going to bring Detroit back, bring the 14th District back, bring Michigan back. So we want to be a partner. I have Rick Cruz here. He's going to handle the question and answer from the IDW Local 58. They have a great job training program. We partner with a lot of organizations. I do want to mention Darnell White. He's the executive director of the Detroit NAACP. We have a lot of community groups that we work with. They're always helping me find my golf balls when I'm not playing golf, so yeah, it's a special place. I have had the pleasure of working with Congressman Jeannine, who's the greatest congressman in the whole wide world. Congresswoman Brenda, who's the greatest congresswoman. So I just want to say that we're a great partner. We always at the Skilled Trades Task Force. I'm going to have Rick Cruz come up when we do the question and answer, so you can get more specifically into what the IDW, the electricity workers are doing here. They got a great program. You have a partner in organized labor. You're doing great work here. I'm proud that you are my congresswoman, and you saw the light as far as skilled trades and work and getting skilled trades workforce in this area. Thank you.
Possessing technical and educational skills. They do not possess the skills to thrive in a professional environment. Can you please elaborate on that, and what do we need to do to change that?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas. I'm the Director of Workforce Development and Education at Focus Hope. This is something that we actually deal with pretty much every day. As William Jones, our CEO, mentioned earlier, we're very much driven by not just the demand side and what employees need, but also the supply side. And the biggest gap that we see is not the capacity of the person to learn, it's not the desire, but really their belief in themselves. And so we spend a significant period of time in helping to be transformational with the population and the clients that we serve, and helping to do a lot with the psychology. Many of the population that we serve have never been told that they can be successful. They've been through an educational system that has not provided them with even the soft skills or the academic skills that they need to fulfill the kinds of jobs that the employers are looking for. And when we host employer advisory councils on a quarterly basis, the biggest thing that they tell us is not just the skill set, but the concept of being on time, of being a lifelong learner, of being adaptable, which Reyes mentioned earlier. They really don't need them to know everything. They want them to be able to learn things, to be open to learn, to be respectful, to be a team player, as you mentioned earlier, how to navigate conflict resolution, all of those kinds of things. So I think making sure that the employers, and that's something that I'll probably say many times if given the opportunity, but getting the employers to be a part of this transformational process is key, and not just us as the organizations giving the technical training, but making sure that it's a holistic approach and helping them really prepare for success, not just knowing the skills, but how you deliver on it and how you grow with it.
My name is Paul Galpinski, and I'm the Dean of the Oakland School's Technical Campus Northeast, located in Pontiac. I also had the distinct honor of, in 2012, serving as Michigan's Teacher of the Year. And when we talk about career technical education, in the long history of that award, I was the first career technical educator to earn that award and that honor. It was a wonderful opportunity for career technical education to be on the front page. And as Mary Kaye Aukee talked about, we need more K-12 education for every student. And particularly for this question that was asked, when we talk about the career-ready habits, our students are graded on their technical and academic skills, but in K-12 at our campuses, they also have a portion of their grade working with career-ready habits, as people would refer to those as soft skills. We know really those are the hard skills, because that's what employers are looking for, the teamwork, being on time, and being able to work in a collaborative environment. And so when we look at our K-12 system, we do have that element that also then is available at other organizations that are there. But what we really need to make sure that we do is we have an educated community and parents to know that it's okay that our young people look at this as a very, very viable option for having a wonderful career in a lot of the different areas, in particular in the skilled trade. So our students are graded on that, and we work with our partnerships when they're out in the workforce on building those skill sets so that they're ready to step next into that pipeline and be ready in that workforce.
I want to talk about not losing K-12, but we have a large adult American workforce, especially low-income workers that lack the skills in a professional setting. And one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about the skilled trades, when we talk about middle class now, it is shrinking. And it's shrinking at the same time our skilled trades are shrinking. So think about it. Unless you have a college degree or one of those really, really rare, fortunate ones, you're pretty much in a service economy working minimum wage. So I would like the panel to talk about, do any of you have a plan or feel that we should, and what should we do to address that adult workers that we need to reinvest in so that we can pull them up as this industry has begun to shrink in labor and reducing us to minimum wage. So anyone have a comment?
My name is Maria Paz, and I am the provost at Lawrence Technological University. And I guess the first example that I would like to give is the example of our partnership with Vocational. So at Vocational, the majority of the candidates and the students that are there are actually adults. And Vocational does a great job in making sure that not only they get the foundation, but in addition, that they understand the work ethic that is necessary for them then to be productive. With our partnership, then they come to Lawrence Tech and they get an associate's degree. So we have an associate's degree in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, manufacturing. We have in the sound system. And so I can tell you that in the majority of the cases, those adults come in, and because they were guided, and when they come to Lawrence Tech to continue to be guided, they find fabulous jobs. Always fabulous jobs. So there are opportunities for, I guess that when you are in an associate's degree, we are talking about Lawrence Tech, it could be a community college, but there are not just opportunities, but we have to work together to make sure that, those adults are very productive. And they are really at the beginning of their lives, and they can be very helpful for our time.
Good evening. I'm Holly Parker. I'm the Vice President at Corporation for a Skilled Workforce, where I work with Jeannine, LaPrad, and I oversee the Economic Opportunity team. And we believe that the pathway to prosperity is through credential attainment. And we really think that there are sort of three things that need to happen to reinvest in the adult worker and make sure that they are able to have a prosperous life and family sustaining
The first thing is I want to echo what Rashida said about employer engagement. I think we have to expect more from employers and ask more from employers. I think that we're hearing that they need and demand skilled workers, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be a part of creating skilled workers. And in fact, the case is there to be made that the bigger role that they play in this, the bigger the outcome for them. So I think we need to really bring them into the credential market and into the entire process, and bring them into the school place or into the school market, and bring school into the workplace again, more and more as CTE is doing. And once employers are there in the school environment, we need to make sure the schools are actually listening to employers and are producing students who are able to demonstrate the skills that employers have told the schools that they need. So employers say, these are the skills you need, and we'll invest, and we'll play our part and tell you what we need, and then we'll do our part, and we'll hire those folks. So the schools listen, the employers engage, the schools listen, and then the students can trust that the credentials that they're getting will actually teach them the skills that they need to be hired in the workplace. So that's what we're working to do, and the partnerships between the schools and the employers have to be emphasized.
David, I want to ask a question of you when the Workforce Intelligence Network, their objective is to create a workforce development system that provides employers with a skilled workforce, which goes into what Ken had said earlier, that helps their business. Can you talk to me about that?
Thank you, Representative. My name is David Palmer. I'm with the Workforce Intelligence Network for Southeast Michigan. Thinking about the comments of the folks on the panel here with me, I think one of the ways that we can help adults attain better jobs is not to have failed students. So we can look at public education in the city of Detroit over the last decade plus and see that it's been under state management, and there's a lot of challenges moving students through the K-12 system into prosperous careers. One of the things that we've been working on with representatives in the Michigan House is the CTE program funding formula is made up by an administrative rule, and 60% of that funding is directed towards careers that are not in the high demand or don't pay living wages. So that's one of the policy things that we've been working on is trying to get that alignment fixed again. So we know in the second quarter of 2015 that we're over 120,000 jobs in Wynn's region, and over 20,000 of those are in the city of Detroit. Those are registered nurses, programmers, and many other positions. So connecting the dots between school counseling, which currently in Michigan we have a ratio of about 700 students to one school counselor, they're effectively playing social services roles more than career counselors. The recommended allotment is about 250 to 1. So Wynn has been working with the ISDs at Oakland and Livingston and Macomb and St. Clair counties to introduce a program called My Bright Future, which is an online platform that connects students directly to employers on various levels, starting at looking at profiles, potentially chat rooms, visits with advanced manufacturers or nursing training programs, or perhaps with our friends at Lawrence Tech or at other technical universities in the region. So I think there's a tremendous amount that we can do with what we have if we realign the priorities accordingly.
You know, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think all of our speakers here have given you just a snapshot. I'm sorry, we have one more speaker. Can you please tell me from a labor perspective, where do you see labor connecting the dots between closing the gap in skill trade?
Thank you. My name is Rick Brooks. I am a business representative for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, so I'd like to thank that we have this panel. Thank you, Congressman, for having us. Thank you, Rick Locker, for allowing me to speak on your behalf. We have been around for over 100 years and doing skilled trades, apprenticeship programs, and how to bridge those gaps. We are willing to partner with anybody and everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Our skilled trades program is at zero cost to taxpayers. That means taxpayers, you do not pay a dime for our programs. We are unique in the fact that we are a union, so all union members pay for those other apprentices to go to school. In partnership with our contractors, that means no cost. So, given much expected, with the people that come into our program, there is an expectation of excellence. The way that you're going to build a world-class city is by having world-class skilled tradesmen. We represent the construction end of the skilled trades. And women. Skilled trades, men and women, correct. So yes, our programs are 5 years, and in that 5 years, we teach everything, all the new technology. If you want to look at everything that's being built, downtown, midtown, it is only through world-class training you have world-class city that our city is worthy of being rebuilt because it is built great the first time. So, with the new arena project, with a lot of these Panelist projects, now the excitement you haven't heard in the past, and we're revisiting, how do we reinvest into skilled trades? Well, I'll tell you this, for us, what we need from everybody is for there to be a kind of a neutral tone between going to college and going into the skilled trades. So instead of saying one is better than the other, let that student determine what's best. What is their gift? Because you can't tell a kid what he should or should not do. If my parents, and they did try, to tell me what I was supposed to do, one of the great advantages is, as an electrician, I didn't have to cut my hair. So I mean, I tell you what, I went through 12 years of compulsory campus education, and the minute I could grow my hair, I did. So I know that's a little crazy statement, but I mean, it's just I was able to be the person I wanted to be in the type of career path I wanted to be in. I didn't have to conform to certain social standards that everybody wanted me to be a certain way. We do allow a lot of flexibility in what we do. We do have a world-class training facility. You might not know it here in Detroit, but when you go to other places around the country, and I can tell many stories about traveling around to different places in the country where they respect the labor force that we have in the city of Detroit, our name is still held with much honor and respect because they understand for us to be in a position that we built and we were the ones that created all the machinery in the World War II. I mean, it took a series of education that, the tech lines that were built for that, the education system, the skilled trades, that still exists in skilled trades. What you haven't heard, and the reason why you haven't heard a lot about skilled trades in the last 20 years is because there hasn't been any work. There has not. So our skilled tradesmen had to go to other places around the country. Now, for us to reinvest now, I want you to think about it as a 5, 10 year, it can't happen overnight. It takes 5 years to be a licensed electrician. You can't do that overnight. No matter how gifted and smart you are, even after 5 years, that's not enough time to be the best at what you do. It takes a long time to really understand. If you think about all the things that have changed in our technology, from the lighting that we have LED in your hopefully in your neighborhood you got LED now, and on your freeway systems, if you look at all the advancements in computers, that's all in the electrical field. We teach all that, all the stuff. If you look at Ford Chrysler, we're the ones that build it. If you look at all the powerhouses, we build it. So I mean, just with the skilled trades task force that we have with Brenda Jones, the outreach that we partnered with all of our other political figures to make sure that City of Detroit residents understand that these jobs are available, that are here right now for us. Dan Gilbert is building, 70, 80 different, he's renovating 70, 80 different buildings. Well, he's not going to stop just because we're not producing, if you want to look at it, and I'm just going to be real blunt. If the City of Detroit, the school system isn't producing the students that can enter into those skilled trades, he's not going to stop. Right. So, I mean, let's work together. I'm doing this because I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. It's not the money. If the money is good, though, for those that want to go through the 5-year apprenticeship program, $77,000 after you finish that program, plus benefits, it's union benefits. And if you wanted to hone your skills and go and advance more, you can. There is no limit to through the technology that you can advance in. Now, the skill trades in construction end is what we teach, but those skills are bridgeable to all others. And Ken brought up a great one. Ken, a friend of mine, he had talked about entrepreneurship. And I'd like to just key on that because it is passion of mine as well, because 98% of our contractors, electrical contractors, went through our apprenticeship program. If I could just end on that, just wrap your head around that. 98% of your electrical contractors that are in our program, they went through, I mean, these are not small time, these are $100 million, mega, billion dollar, I don't think $1 billion, there's $10 billion worth of work going on. Well, it's our contractors that are doing it. So just end on that note, that knowing that we're not just teaching people to be just electricians, but the next generation of entrepreneurs.
You just have a snapshot of what these individuals are doing. We want you now to network and talk to each other and connect the dots. We will be bringing this back, and the next time we're going to have a focus on the educational piece. And I want to thank everyone for here. I want to thank my staff. Please raise your hand in the back. They were amazing.